he had just found out that while he was away on work, that his wife was having this massive, crazy, like drug-fueled orgy at his house. So one of my most interesting purchases in the past few years was a 57 356 Speedster Porsche, and it's a true 57 chassis. It was a retro body. It was rebodied by Beck. Really awesome car. It has an original block, but a rebuilt motor, and it was honed and cam, and it's really reliable, has a little more oomph to it because the original ones were really slugs. But the interesting part about that car was the buying experience of it. I had found it actually through one of the greatest websites, AutoTempest, which was really cool. And I love that site because it just checks everything for you across the board. And I found it and it was listed wrong. I have a knack of finding cars when they're listed improperly, but I'm not going to give away all my secrets. So I find this car and I've always wanted one. Ever since I was younger, and hey, look, I'll admit it, I watched 90210 and Dylan had one, and I always loved that car. And this one was like the perfect spec. It was, black with the red interior. It was just that iconic look. And I contacted the guy that was selling it. It was upstate New York. I made an appointment to go check it out. He was asking a lot of money for the car, but when I got there, I was prepared to make him an offer and pay him cash. And, listen, during COVID, people wanted cash, and there wasn't a lot of it around. So fortunately enough, I had some. I actually went there with my son. We took a little drive up. Went and checked it out. Car was clean. It was everything that he said it was. I gave him a third of what he was asking for because it was cash. And the reason he accepted it is because he had just found out that while he was away on work, that his wife was having this massive, crazy, like drug-fueled orgy at his house when he logged into his cameras, and he just wanted to be done with the marriage, but he wanted to be done with all his assets before that happened. The owner of the Speedster, interesting enough, he was a retired detective. After he retired, he was contracted to build software and give TED Talks all around the country about fraud and internet fraud and credit card fraud and things like that. He told me that there was this wild drug-fueled orgy going on, that there were a couple of girls and a whole bunch of guys, and that was really it. I mean, it was kind of weird to hear because it was in this really remote part of New York, but he had originally lived in New York City, so I'm sure these people probably came from the city up there for a little soiree, and that's what happened. He had a couple of cool cars, though. He had a couple of other cars. He had an old Volvo P something. It was like a P30 or 40 or something like that, which was kind of a cool car. And he had some old like farm equipment. He's like, hey, anything you want to buy, you could buy it. I'm just not into that stuff. He had bought all these cars, but he had actually never retitled them. So I guess in his case, it couldn't be considered a marital asset, and he just wanted to off these cars. So I made him a cash offer, and he said, you know what, enjoy it. So I got the car. I actually had my flatbed go and pick it up. I actually woke up, I stayed up there, and I woke up my driver, and I said, you got to come now before this guy changes his mind. And it was like, I waited up there about 6 hours. It's been an awesome car. It's given me actually no problems whatsoever. I actually, right now, as we speak, it's in a shop being retuned and things like that, because it's got the big dual Weber carburetors, which never cooperate 100%. Enjoyed that car. I get a ton of attention in that car. Everybody just loves it. You pull that car into any car show and people just gravitate towards it because it's such a pretty, iconic car. I mean, everybody knows it from like James Dean, the 90210 days and things like that. And it's cool. I really enjoy that car. During COVID, I bought a lot of cars, actually. I was just finding weird cars all over the place. I do things on a spur of a moment. I'm really, if I find something and I have to have it, I'll just grab a bundle of cash. And like during the middle of COVID, I was actually just messing around on AutoTempest, and I found a Ford Contour SVT. And this car was always just a cool car. I always liked the SVT cars with Ford. I was always a Ford guy. I had Mustangs. I had a new Focus RS. So when I saw this Contour SVT, I was like, wow, this thing is clean. It had 19,000 original miles. It was a one-owner car, and it was listed wrong. And I found it, and it was in Delaware. Contacted the guy, and it was like a Craigslist ad. And this guy, I could just tell, was doubting that I was serious. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. You can call me. We could FaceTime. Maybe you could show me the car and this and that. And the guy was so leery. And I said to him, look, from what you're telling me, I want to buy the car. So where can I be tomorrow to buy the car? He said, so you want to come tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll come tomorrow. He gave me an address. And when I looked up the address, it was like a motel. So now I'm like, okay, who's being shady? So I called him back and I said, look, I'm willing to come out there, but this is a motel. He said, well, I want to meet at a mutual place. So I said, okay, I get that. I get that. I knew I was driving the car back, and I knew I wasn't coming back without the car. So I said to my wife, we didn't have the newborn at the time, and my son wasn't living with me, so it was just the two of us. And I said to her, you want to go to Delaware? And she said, for what? I said, well, I'm going to buy another car. And she just thinks I'm nuts because I do this all the time. So I took an Uber to Delaware. So I jumped in an Uber from Long Island to Delaware in the middle of the night. We left at about 3 a.m. Guy picked us up in an Uber, and half the time I was trying to wake the Uber driver up. He kept nodding out at the wheel. And I kind of feel, whenever I do this with Uber, I kind of feel bad because, they do have to get back to New York. So a lot of times what I'll do is if the Uber's like, and it wasn't even that expensive, crazy enough, it was like $200. For $200 to get to Delaware is cheap. So what I always do is I always double it because I know they got to get back. So I'll do the $200 charge and I'll give them $200 cash. So we get there to Delaware, and I get to the motel. By the time we got there, it was probably about 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. Call the guy, and he's like, oh, you're really here? I said, yeah, I'm really here. So all of a sudden, he tells me he's coming down. Okay, I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And now I don't have a car. I'm just standing out there, and I'm like, where is this guy? And no Ford Contour SVT is pulling in. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I'm not about to get robbed. Because that's the first thought going through my head. So now I go into the front desk area to wait there. So at least I'm around people. And all of a sudden I see this pickup truck, kind of on the corner of the parking lot. And I see a guy walking through the parking lot with like a 357 Magnum hanging off his hip. He's in these big cowboy boots. He's got a cap on that says John Deere. And I'm like, this is a little weird. And we're in a pretty rural area. He comes walking up, and then I get a text, you're not here. And I said, oh, no, I'm here. Where are you? He said, I'm standing out front. I got a hat on and cowboy boots. And I'm like, oh, that's him. I step out, and I say, I forget what his name was. Let's say it's John. I'm like, you John? He's like, yeah. You Seth? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, so you're real. I said, and you are too. I said, but where's the car? He says, where's the cash? I said, well, the cash is with me. But the car is not with you. The car is close by. If you want to make sure that I'm not trying to rob the car or anything like that, let's go inside. There's cameras in there. There's a witness. I said, my wife is there. I said, we can count the money. You can see that I have the money. And then if you're accepting, you can go get the car. We could do that. So we go inside. We count out the money. He goes, all right, I didn't think you were legit. The car's out back. I said, it is? He'd already had the car there, but he had it hidden behind the dumpsters. So we went out. I looked at the car. The car was everything and then some. And he had the original books, the original window sticker, all the receipts for the car from day one. It was like his cousin's car or his uncle's car or something like that. And they had passed away and left him the car. I scored that car. That was such a cool car. I had the best time driving that car back to New York. My wife absolutely hated it. She said, what is this piece of crap you're buying? It had the old automatic seat belts and everything. And, then you had to stretch the lap belt over. And it was so cool. I mean, it was a true manual SVT with a, little nice exhaust note on it and everything. And it was all original. And the car was just so cool. And I sold that car on Cars and Bits.
Over the last 4 years, we've partnered with Glossit to show off some of their amazing detailing products, give you some great deals, and show how much they can transform any car. But did you know that Glossit University is also one of the most amazing online resources for education, mentorship, and coaching for whatever your business is in the detailing space? Whether you do paint correction, ceramic coating, PPF, wraps, anything like that, they can take your business to the next level. And right now, they're offering free 15-minute phone consultations where you can schedule at the link in the description below. Tell them about your goals, tell them about your business, about yourself, and really where you want to get to, and they'll show you if they're online courses, they're in-person classes where I'll actually be in their August class, or they're one-on-one or group mentorship programs with Rich Light from Glossit. It's an awesome way to take your business to that next level. So set up your phone consultation now, talk to them about where you're at today, and they'll tell you where you could be tomorrow.